Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Jamie, aka Rick here, bringing you a WoW video. This is one of the new dungeons, the Hour of Twilight, that was introduced in patch 4.3. This is actually the third dungeon in, there's 3 new dungeons, so this is the last one. I recorded them in backwards order, well I haven't even got a recording for the first one yet. That's mainly because there's quite a few bosses in there. It's not just like a single run, because you get 2 random bosses from like 4 I think it is, and then you get the last boss, which is the same every time, but the first 2 vary all the time, so I've just got to get like one more boss. I think there's one I haven't done yet, so I've got to record a bit for that, and then once I've got that I'll bring that video out to you. But it's been quite a few days since my last video, so I thought I'd better actually get some videos out there, just so you know it's not too long between videos. It's been like 4 or 5 days I think now, so if this actually goes out on the day that I'm recording it, because I've got a bit of editing to do, because through the boss fights there will be little pop-ups on the screen showing you the abilities that I'm talking about. So I've got them all listed here and exactly what they do, what they're called and everything. So I'm going to be walking through the bosses, but I didn't want to just do a boss guide. That's the thing, I'm not a huge fan of just those. I like seeing instance runs, they're quite nice, you know. You get a general idea of how the instance works, you know, what you should expect when going in there. But when you see a boss fight, you know what to do for that boss. But in here there's some, trash. I wouldn't say it's tricky, but there's a certain way of doing some of the trash. So I'll obviously drop those hints as and when they arrive. This first lot is really simple. It's just a tank and spank, although in that corridor before you do get a point where there's like 2 behind you and 1 in front of you, so the tank's got to try and pick up both. They are casters as far as I know, so if you can interrupt one of them, then obviously he'll run to the person with the most threat. So if your tank can build the threat and then someone interrupt it in the group, then that's quite an easy way of gathering them up. I normally do this, I either strangulate them, it's quite an easy way of doing it. You don't want an interrupt that stuns, so like for a paladin, an Avenger's shield wouldn't really work. Yeah, it would stop him from casting, but it wouldn't bring him to you because he'd be stunned as well. So there are, you want a stun that, or an interrupt, should I say, that stops his spell casting but doesn't actually stun him or, fear him or anything like that. So just a little tip there. So this is the first boss. His name is Arcurian, I think that's how you pronounce it. And it's got some pretty cool abilities. Wait until we engage, it's not too long. Firstly, like some of them you won't see. So like Hands of Frost is basically it just does damage to his target. So obviously that will be your tank if he's doing his job properly. It inflicts 50,000 frost damage, which obviously it won't be quite that much if your tank's got some defenses and some resistances maybe to frost damage as well, so it won't be that bad. Another one, this will affect everyone I think within 65 yards it says. So he unleashes a wave of ice inflicting 10,000 frost damage and immobilizing all enemies within 65 yards for 10 seconds. Although this is dispellable, it's a magic effect, so obviously you still take the damage, but the immobilization can be dispelled by, obviously healers can dispel it. It can be dispelled quite easily, so you got to get on that really pretty quickly. And also in the fight here you'll see Thrall is encased in a tomb. He'll do that to stop Thrall from killing the people above, which are those frozen servitors, which you saw in the first corridor. They will throw boulders down onto random people and do a lot of damage, so they'll do 20,000 ice damage. So obviously if Thrall's out of that block of ice, he can keep killing them off and you won't get that many drop down. This ability here, as you'll see, when he's goes to 30%, he'll start Torrent of Frost, which inflicts 15,000 frost damage each second on all enemies. So it's basically a burn phase. You've got to really get him down quick after that, otherwise the amount of damage will start getting unhealable. And if Thrall's still in his little frost tomb as well, then you'll have a lot of those ice boulders dropping on your group as well. So you can easily wipe on this boss if you don't get Thrall out of his tomb and you haven't got very high DPS. It's not insanely high You don't need like a huge amount. If you've got a really good healer, which I have, this is actually running it with a friend, I do believe, at this point. So he's a really good healer, so we were alright in that situation, because I don't think we were that quick on getting through the block of ice. I mean, I was chained on the spot, which that was the immobilization effect. I didn't get dispelled, because the tank was taking quite a hit, so I didn't get that dispelled off me. So I couldn't get over to Thrall, and the Warlock wasn't really paying attention, and obviously our other DPS was a rogue, and he was pretty bad, so he didn't even come over and help. But eventually, when I ran over to the block to start getting him out, the Warlock realised what he should be doing, and helped out, so we got him out pretty fast. But I done a run yesterday where no one really knew what they were doing. I was on the Frost Tomb all on my own, trying to get Thrall out, and we were getting absolutely bombarded by loads of these enemies, and we didn't wipe, but it was pretty damn close at the end. It's a lot easier if you do break Thrall out really quickly. So alright, this bit, it's the walk up to the second boss. It's got some quite interesting packs in it. There is a caster which appears like a shadow priest, kind of. He's like purpley, and you need to interrupt this guy because he does some pretty dangerous stuff. I'm not actually sure what spells are, because I don't know how you find that out, what spells they're casting, and what they exactly do, but they do need to be interrupted because they do quite a bit of damage, and it just goes a lot smoother as a whole if you take them out first. Another thing, there's some hunters in there. They're not really that dangerous, but they do disengage a lot, which is quite annoying. So although you're not really, like, if there was another group nearby, I could see it being a problem, but the other groups don't spawn until Thrall moves up, so you haven't really got that problem. It's just a bit annoying. These guys as well, this is my first run in here, so I didn't realise they were there. I actually get stabbed and they do quite a bit of damage, like burst damage, like all rogues do. They do quite a lot. So you got to watch out for those. Make sure your tank goes first down this ramp and you don't make the same mistake I did and run in thinking there's nothing there, because there is. And that totem you see drop down there, it's called Rising Fire Totem. It basically increases your health and your damage by a percentage. Increases over time as it stacks up. It stacks up to 10 max, but it's rarely down for that long, so you have to chain these mobs pretty fast. Pardon me. And and he doesn't always spawn it right on your party, which can be annoying sometimes. If you can, try and move your pack, the pack of mobs into it if you're the tank, so it will really help you out, help your healer out if you've got more health, and obviously everyone's doing more damage, so they'll go down quicker. So in general, you want to be in that. I don't know why a Warlock's standing there. If I was a caster in this, I'd definitely be inside that totem at all times. I mean, just the buffs you get from it will make you do pretty nice damage. And you never know, he might have beaten me on the DPS meters if he was in there. But what can we say? But yeah, so these packs are all the same as far as I can tell. They've got one caster, they've got the hunter guy, and then there's a couple of melee guys in there that aren't really any problem at all. They hit pretty hard. As you see, the caster there, he's the dangerous one. I get on him straight away, and I don't think anyone else does really. But there we go. What can you say? It's pug groups. They don't always know what they're doing. Although this was pretty early on when I was doing this. Not many people had done these runs before. This was one of my first few runs, and I wasn't exactly sure either. I just always go for casters first because they normally are quite dangerous, and interrupts are always good. If you can interrupt a spell, then you should interrupt it. It's like mages, they should always try and spell steal stuff. I do personally. I think there's always occasionally there are some nice buffs that you can spell steal off enemy mobs and get a huge advantage. But there we go. So yeah, the hunter always seems to go down last as well because he just disengages away from the AoE group. So I like doing AoE damage. As a Death Knight, Howling Blast does a lot of damage, especially in the previous dungeon to this one, but it's actually be the next video. You'll see I do a pretty hefty amount of damage at a certain point, but I won't give any spoilers away, and you should know what part I'm on about if you've run the dungeons before. So this pack is a little bit more tricky. You have to run up the hill to get them. If you don't, you can pull them down, but obviously you might not bring all the casters down. I go on Hunter here as well for some reason. I don't really know why. Or the ranged guy. I don't really know why I go on him to start with. So they're not all that dangerous. They don't do a huge amount of damage. Should always be that caster first. As you can see, he's still alive and casting on the party. But I make mistakes every now and then. I'm not the best player. I haven't really ever raided that much, so PvE is not my strongest point. I'd say PvP not that strong either. I dabble in both. I don't really go full time on either of them. So I level a lot of characters, so you should know that by now, that I have a lot of characters. I've recently been leveling my Hunter as well, because in 4.3 they reduce the amount of XP that it takes to level from 70 to 80, so I leveled from 73 to 77 in like a few hours, I think, on my Hunter. It was really nice. Finally get that up. I've always wanted to, run dungeons as a Hunter, so I like them as like a class. They're really nice. They're really interesting as well. So good fun. So hopefully I can get that up to max level. I might even start my raiding with that. And again here, I take a lot of damage. As you can see, if you're not a tank, these guys do hit really hard. And I almost die, but that's me getting too eager. I normally like fast runs. I chain pull. When I tank, I always chain pull. I go from one to the other straight away, no delaying. I think once this pack's down, while the boss is coming in, I'm going to start talking about it, because it's got quite a lot of abilities, and it's going to take me a little while to go through them. And Thrall does help you out in this fight again. As you can see, he's still casting those totems, and he does that throughout the boss fight, which if you get it all set up, if you get it set up nicely, then they can really help you out. But sometimes they spawn in really inappropriate places. I'll explain a bit more on that once you start the boss fight. He also heals himself in this fight as well, Thrall, so if he takes too much damage, if he stands in the fire, that kind of stuff, then he can heal himself, so he won't die. And he has Lava Burst as well, which does 50,000 fire damage to the boss as well, which is quite nice. It's quite good that he helps out, to be honest. So as this boss is flying in, the main ability of this boss is Mark of Silence, which marks a enemy spellcaster, so basically one of your party that is a spellcaster. When the marked target casts a spell, the Seera throws a knife in their direction. So basically that person starts casting, she turns around, throws a knife or whatever. If she's in front, just throws a knife. But the thing about this throw knife is she throws a knife towards the marked enemy, inflicting 15,000 physical damage to the first player it collides with. If the knife hits a player afflicted with Mark of Silence, it also silences them for 2.5 seconds. So basically what this means is you've got to try and, if you're a healer or a caster, you've got to stand behind someone or in between the boss and someone, so there's someone in between you and the boss basically, so you don't get hit by that throwing knife, because it will still it will hit that person, preferably the tank, because obviously they can mitigate quite a lot of that damage, and it won't take as much off of them. If it's a DPS like me, I'd take the full 15k, which shouldn't be too bad, because I shouldn't take too much damage unless I stand in the smoke bombs that you can see there. I'll get into that in a minute. So basically, if you're a caster, you always want to have someone in between you and the boss, so this never happens. It's really important that you do that, because if a healer gets silenced for too long, which my mate does in this, because he doesn't know exactly how it works at this time, it's still quite new. So if that happens too much, then you can wipe quite easily on this boss. Also, as you see, the smoke bombs are there. They will an 8-yard radius around her for 20 seconds they'll last. You can move her out of it, obviously, and it does 5,000 nature damage every half a second, so it does a pretty heavy amount of damage if you stand in it too long. So you want to rush out of that, and you want to pull her out of it as soon as possible. Another thing, I don't know if she's done it yet, at 30% remaining health, yeah, I think she has. She does a blade barrier, which makes any incoming amount of damage below 40,000 reduces it to 1. So if you don't do 40,000 damage or more, then it will do 1 damage. But the thing is, the blade barrier ends when a player hits above 40,000. So that as soon as someone hits over 40k, that drops off. But then she gets lesser blade barrier, which is basically the same, but it's 30,000 damage. So you've got to do over 30,000 damage to break that one. Otherwise it will keep doing 1 again. So that's quite a cool ability that you've got. There's kind of a damage requirement to that ability. I don't do over that without some like insane buffs, but because I'm a two-handed Frost Death Knight, if I was one-handed, I'd easily do over that. I'm pretty sure, because you know, you do a hell of a lot. You know, you hit harder as a two-hander, but it's a lot slower. So that's the only thing. With two single-handers, you're a lot quicker damage, and the numbers aren't quite as big, which is a shame. But there we go. Yeah, so that was that fight. It's pretty tricky, you know, if you don't get everything right. If your healer doesn't stand in the right places, or if you're a heavily caster DPS, then it's, you know, you've got to stack up quite hard, like quite tightly, to actually get that boss done right. And the smoke bombs as well, they do hit really hard, so it's pretty tricky. In all honesty, it's quite a nice boss though. It's got some good abilities, and most of these have got really nice abilities, and they make you kind of work as a team, and you actually got to think about them. Again, this hallway, or this, like, you know, this bit down to the last boss is quite cool. There's three trash packs. They're all the same, I'm pretty sure. They've all got the three, I think it's three minions in. You've got to kill this one first. And you can interrupt it as far as I know. I don't hear for some reason. I think I was derping a little bit, but you can interrupt it. It does a quick. Oh, there you go. I interrupted that time, I think. But yeah, it does a pretty heavy amount of damage, so you want to interrupt that straight away and get it down as quick as possible. You know, I seemed again to be the only one doing that, but eventually my group comes over and helps me out. The rest of it is pretty much tank and spank. They don't really do that much AoE damage or anything that I can tell. You know, I'm taking a little bit there from something, but I can't work out exactly what that is, whether it's just random or not. Might be a frontal cone, I don't know, something like that. You never really can tell, because I don't, you know, like the dungeon journal shows all the abilities for the bosses, it doesn't do that for the trash, so I never really know how to find out what I'm taking damage from, but maybe there is some way. If you know a way, then you can tell me, that'd be nice. So yeah, this is the second one. They spawn in exactly the same places every time, and it's nice if you can get there before they spawn, because they do take a little while, because obviously then you can start building your aggro pretty quickly as a tank. You know, if you can get there and drop that consecration down before they come up, that'd be pretty handy to do that. So again, you know, it's pretty easy stuff. It's not the most difficult boss in the world, but it's still, you got to think about the trash, kind of. You know, it doesn't do a huge amount of damage, so it's not too difficult, but you know, as I said, you need to do it in the right order. Otherwise, if you leave that eye there on its own, it can build up quite a lot of that, like a lot of damage. So it's always best to take down casters first. I always find if there's a pack with a caster in it, you should take that down first, because generally, you know, spell defenses are weaker than melee attack defenses for a tank, so it's always better to take those down first. This is, I think, you got these little like globe things, but they take like 2 hits to kill them. They've got like 40k HP pretty much, so don't take you very long to kill those. This is the last pack, and then we're on to the final boss, which will be, I think, Archbishop Benedictus is his name. He's wearing like priest tier 6. It looks pretty cool. Gotta admit, I love that tier. It's like the angel wing one. Really nice. I've seen a couple of priests transmogrified into that. I still don't know how to, like, if that's the right word, transmogrified. It sounds like weird, but yeah, I pop AMS there, which is quite nice. I've used it a hell of a lot more in this thing, because, you know, spell damage can hurt quite a lot, so I've been trying out where to use it, and if you use it on, it'll be the next video. It'll be in the next video on the last boss. There's Fell Firestorm is the ability, and you can AMS out of that and you won't take any damage, so it's really nice, and I would definitely recommend doing that, because it does hit like an absolute truck otherwise. So yeah, so that was all the trash down in that corridor. I said that really weird. And the boss runs out. He's friendly to start with, but then he gets greedy. He's after the dragon soul that you're basically protecting at this point from Deathwing. And he wants it. Obviously, Thrall doesn't let him, so he goes kind of crazy and starts attacking. He's got quite a few abilities. Well, he's got like 4 pretty much. And there's 2 versions of them. Because 60% remaining health, he will turn into a shadow priest basically. He's a normal priest and then he turns into a shadow priest. So there's me checking out my rewards there. But yeah, so first ability is Righteous Shear. Archbishop Benedictus targets a random player with Righteous Shear, inflicting holy damage to players within 10 yards of the target per stack. So you've kind of got to spread out, I guess, to avoid that doing massive AoE damage, which is pretty hard when you've got, well, there's me, a rogue and a tank all on this guy. So if you get it on the DPS or on the tank, you know, then in on melee DPS, then it's pretty hard to actually carry on DPSing with this. You kind of got to move out the party and avoid that hitting up. But it is dispellable, so healers should definitely be on that straight away. Should dispel that as soon as they see it pop up to stop it doing too much damage. So again, there is a Twilight version of that. It does exactly the same. So, you know, it's just a shadowy version of the same spell. So next one, Purifying Light. He forms 3 orbs in the air, like above a player's head, and then he sends them to assault a player, basically. So they just crash down on a certain player. So again, you want to spread out, because it deals 50,000 holy damage to all players within 6 yards. So I don't think you can avoid it as such, but maybe you can. I don't know if it homes in or not. I haven't really seen that much. But yeah, you want to get out the way of that, most definitely. You want to spread out so it's only one person taking that damage. Again there, you saw that was Wave of Virtue, just saw there. Wave of Virtue sweeps across the platform, inflicting 100,000 holy damage to nearby players and knocking them back. But as you saw, there was a shell on the ground, which is Water Shell. It protects all, it's something Thrall casts. It protects all allies from the Wave of Virtue and increases their damage done by 100% while they're inside it. So that's really nice. We have a couple of players go down here because they're standing in stuff, which you know always happens. People always stand in stuff. I think that's at the Twilight Shear. Is that stuff on the ground there? So I think that's it. Yeah, it must be. That thing on the ground is Twilight Shear, I'm guessing. So you don't want to stand in that because that does a hell of a lot of damage. Yeah, so you got Corrupting Twilight is the 3 bursts in the air, the 3 orbs, you know, but they're different colour. They're shadowy orbs this time. They still do the same amount of damage, still 50,000 damage. And then you got Wave of Twilight, which is exactly the same as Wave of Virtue. It's just purple instead. Thrall does Cleansing Spirit, so he can dispel. I don't know if he dispels players or if he just dispels himself if he gets it on him. But here I don't see that bubble go up from Thrall, so I just run out of the way of it instead, which is a good idea. You don't want to get hit by that. It's a lot of damage. And we took him out pretty easily, you know. We had a couple of deaths. I did actually res someone, but then they died again. So they stood in something else as soon as they got rezzed and died. But you know, it's overall it was a pretty clean run. We didn't fail that much, I guess. We done a good job. We got all the bosses down without wiping once, so I'd say that's pretty good. This is actually probably the easiest one out of the 3, I'd say, definitely. Well, depending on what bosses you get on the first one. Some of the bosses are a lot harder than the others, but the second one's pretty tricky as well. The last boss, there's a hell of a lot of damage going around. But you know, we'll get to that in the next video. So yeah, it was a look at the Hour of Twilight. I went to record it first time and I couldn't remember what it was called, so I went, this is a video of, and then just sat here like, what is it called? I couldn't remember. So that was quite funny, so I loaded up the internet quick, found it out, and started again. So it's actually my second attempt of recording this, which is quite funny. I should do my research. Although I did get all the spells from the dungeon journal and put them into one big picture and put them on my other screen so I can read through them. I think I'm going to pop them up on the screen. There'll be a little box there with what's happening and stuff like that, what the spell I'm talking about, so you can read it if you want to mute me and don't want to actually hear what I'm saying. That'd be quite, some people might not like my voice. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye for now.